So, how can I live a life that I'm most interested that you will shine in your highest possibility? And that you are interested that he will do the same, or she. So what would the culture look like when we support each other in this highest movement? What is this form of we that doesn't have them? What is a form of we that doesn't have an outside? Like people who are not part of them. And in order to create such a we need to support the highest flow, the highest movement, and we need to have a transpersonal insight. I need both. A new we is that we share a transpersonal world and we share the passion to support the highest movement that's possible. Which means we will not support each other in unhealthy patterns or holding back. But that's quite radical. Because most of the time, even if you look in your day-to-day, how did what I said now fit to your day-to-day? And we see it in very simple, I bring very simple examples, but they are very powerful, I think. For example, if you go into a conversation or you meet somebody, and you go in with a certain level of energy, and you go out with a lower level of energy, which means you're more tired, you're exhausted, you're happy that it's over. You know that you haven't been awake enough to the dynamics that happened. Because when you go out more tired, you miss something. We all miss something. So the relational space is not sustainable because my battery is more empty after I met you. Which has nothing to do with you, which has something to do with me. It's not that you sucked my energy, as we hear it sometimes, but it's that I haven't been aware enough to our dynamics, and therefore the energy dropped, out of whichever reason. But if this happens more often a day, that our energy drops, at the evening we are tired. But we are not supposed to be tired in this way. If we are tired because our batteries are empty, we don't know how to live our life. We are tired in a biological way sometimes, but we are not tired because we lost energy. So in the marketplace, in my spiritual practice in the marketplace, it needs to happen less and less that I go home after my work, after a day, whatever, and I'm tired by losing energy. If I lose energy, I know something doesn't work. I'm not aware enough to the dynamics of the moment. And we talk often about awakening, and some people think awakening is to be quiet in meditation. But to have a good, deep, silent meditation doesn't make us really awake. It's a possibility there, but it means that I can have a very good meditation and I'm still very unaware of my being in the world. Because once I get off the cushion, I might be entangled in dynamics that I don't see. So this is also awakening. So there's awakening into stillness, and there's awakening into movement. And movement means competency. So there is a spiritual competency that we need to develop, I believe. If a transrational mystical path that is not just an improvement of our life, but it's a radical awakening of the human nature wants to take place. Yeah. So I sometimes say to people when they come to retreats or want to do a meditation retreat, and then they come and say, "Oh, I'm so happy because my batteries are so empty. I'm happy that I have 1 week time to fill them up." And then I say, it's nice that you come here to fill it up, but this is not the right place for you. If you come to a meditation retreat because your batteries are empty, you need to look at your life, not to learn to meditate. We need to go to a meditation retreat because we want to deepen our meditation practice, our transpersonal insight. But this is not meant to compensate the unawareness in our life. It might help it later on, but we need to know that something doesn't work in the marketplace. Something how I live my life is not sustainable. And to come back to the example from the Kabbalah, so the inherent nature of a human being is to take. And therefore we are living in a society that when most of the people live in a state of taking, the nature of the world that we live in is that there is not enough. By its nature, by the state of consciousness, if more people live, I do something to get something, the resources are not enough. Whatever the resources are, life energy in relation, physical resources on the planet, how we deal with the nature, it's not enough. And the reverse of it is the will to give. So the reverse of this is to become aware how often I do things in order to get something, which there are some obvious parts to it, but then there are many not so obvious parts to it. How fine and subtle this mechanism is. And so when I imagine my hand in a river, and if I close my hand in this movement, the water will cause a friction around this island. Does this make sense? And what the Kabbalah says, the deep spiritual enlightenment is that I become the will to give. And the will to give is this movement. And if I open my hand, there is only the river. It's not that my hand is in, my hand becomes one with that which creates me, which is pure creativity, divine intelligence or abundance. So once I become one with the will to give, which is the inherent nature of creation. The inherent nature of creation is to create the worlds, to create the universe, to create human beings, to create intelligence. So if I become one with it by giving, the sense of separate self disappears. There is no separate self. So all I am, even if it doesn't sound so good, is a bunch of resistances. This is what I call me. So the copyright department in Thomas calls the separate sense of self me. But in the moment this opens into the divine flow, it's one with the river. So it's water flowing. And there is no separate sense of self. This was just this movement to take. So how do we create a culture of giving? Because the nature of the world of the giving people is that there is always enough. Because if you are giving, you're like a well, like water comes out from you. And if you do the same, you're also a well. So in your world, there's always enough water. It flows to you and it flows to you anyway. But it's not anymore in this self-contraction, because the nature of the self-contraction is that it's afraid of its own existence. There's a primary fear to not be able to sustain the separate existence. This movement is always concerned about itself. This movement is not concerned about itself because there is no separate sense of self. There is no separate existence. So therefore it can give because it doesn't think about itself to lose something, because it's giving anyway. Good.